Okay, so one of the most common questions we get is what is the difference between English or British pool and American pool? And that actually there are a whole load of differences between the two types of game, and many people don't realise sometimes what type of table they've been playing on. They may have been playing in the same pub for years and don't know they've actually been playing English pool, for example, or they might have been playing in a pool hall for years and not realise that it's American pool that they've been playing. So in this video, I'm going to take you through all the differences in some detail, and at the end of the video, I'll give you a summary to help you choose what will be the best table for you to buy. Okay, so let's start off with the difference between the two types of ball that are used between English and American pool. So American, first of all, these use 2 1/4 inch size balls, and that's both in the cue ball and in the object ball, and these weigh 169 grams. For English pool, we've got the cue ball, which is at 1 7/8 inch in size and weighs 96 grams, and you've got the object ball, which is 2 inch in size and weighs 118 grams. Now, you may well be wondering, why is there a difference in size between these two? So, in English pool, most often it's played in pubs in coin-operated tables, and the table actually senses, as the cue ball goes through the mechanism, that it is smaller than the object ball, and it divides the two. So this will go to the return bulk end of the table if you've, say, done a foul shot. And obviously the object ball, when you pot it, it will then run into the little window so you can see which balls you've potted. And that's the reason that these two size balls are different. And in tournaments, they use these size balls as well. So even if it's not on a coin-operated table, still in tournaments, it'd be 1 7/8 inch and 2 inch size object balls. So if we compare these two cue balls, this is what makes the big difference when you're playing the game, is that at 96 grams, this is only 57% of the weight of the 2 1/4 inch cue ball played in American pool, and that's why different types of cue are used when you're playing, and when you strike the ball it feels so different because this is so much heavier than the cue ball. And that's why it's important that when you're choosing what type of table you want to buy, that you know the differences between the two, because playing the two games does actually feel quite different. Okay, so the next step on then from the size of the balls is to look at the size of the pockets. And obviously on an American table, the pockets are going to be a lot larger than they are on an English table. So if we look at the two American balls here, the size of the pocket is actually dictated by the size of two balls side by side. You put them into the jaws of the pocket there, and you can see that the two balls fit in there perfectly. The other thing to look at also is the cut of the cushion and the pocket jaws. It goes along straight and then it cuts straight into the pocket, and the jaws of the pocket are actually slightly angled. So when you're potting a ball along the cushion rail, it hits on the inside there and causes the ball to be potted into the pocket here. If you compare then what the American ball looked like in the pocket to an English ball, you can see the difference again that I was saying about earlier on in the size of the balls. The English ball inside the pocket, it does look absolutely tiny, and that's why you could clearly never play with English balls on an American sized table. Okay, so now we're looking at an English table. So again, for the sake of comparison between the two different sizes of balls, there's two American balls, but let's first of all look at the two smaller English balls and put them into the jaws of the pocket again so you can see how they enter. And again, the pocket size is roughly the size of two balls side by side. They don't actually go into the jaws of the pocket quite as far as they do on an American table. There's actually still quite a lip left on the journey into the pocket, but you can see there the comparative size of the pocket to the size of the balls. The other thing to look at is the shape of the entrance, the jaws of the pocket. They're actually curved on an English pool table, very similar to a snooker table in fact, whereas on the American table they were cut straight on the entrance. And that makes quite a difference when you're trying to pot a ball along a cushion. As you play it there, you've got to be pretty accurate. If you hit it right, then it'll hit on here and it'll go into the pocket. If you're not quite spot on, it'll cause the ball to rattle and it'll come back out. So you need to be more accurate when you're potting on an English-sized table. Just again, for the sake of comparison, let's look at the size of American balls. If you were to put them on here, you can see how different they are and how large they are compared to the pocket on an English table. Okay, so let's now have a look at the way that the cushions are cut and how they differ between the two types of table. First of all, looking at an American table, you'll see that the way that the cushion has a tip that the ball strikes against, it then disappears away. So you've then got the top of the cushion here, and it then falls away at an angle, so the ball is literally hitting the tip of the cushion here. The pockets are cut differently between an American table and an English table. An American table, the center pocket, because it's cut at an angle here, you've actually got quite sharp corners, which means that when you're potting from this type of angle here, your actual target area is very narrow because you've got this tip which is protruding as you're trying to hit that shot. It can be quite tough to pot into the center. Where if you're potting straight though, it is dead easy. The pocket is as wide as we looked at with the corners, where the pocket is actually a double ball width in terms of size. So you'll find quite often American pool players will not take a shot into the center, they'll take a shot into the corner pocket because the shot along the rail is a lot easier. Because of the way that the pockets are cut, you can shoot the ball along the rail here, and even if you hit the cushion along the way, it'll still hit the interior there of the pocket jaws and it will still fall into the pocket when you pot the ball. Okay, so looking at an English table then, you'll see that the edge of the cushion here is actually got a flat front to it, and then the rubber actually goes in, and you can see where I push the cloth, it's actually hollow on the inside there, whereas on the American table it was solid as the cloth went down the face of the cushion. So the other difference is then is look at the center pockets on here. These are actually round, whereas on the American table they were cut virtually square. Now that means that potting into the center pocket is a lot easier. So if you've got a tight angle still here, you can still see clearly into that pocket. It's a much easier pot into the center pocket on an English table. But going down the rails, conversely, is tougher. Again, because they're cut where they've got this circular shape, you've got to get the ball very tight as you're going down the cushion rail here. If you're slightly off, if you catch this first knuckle, it's very likely to bobble and come back out again. So you need to be far more accurate when you're playing on an English table. And as I mentioned before, that's because of the similarity between an English pool table and a snooker table with their curved pocket openings, both in the center and in the corners. Okay, so now let's look at the difference in the sizes of table, and first of all consider American tables. So a tournament size American table is 9 foot in size, whereas an English table is only 7 foot in size. So there's quite a difference between the two tournament sizes. I'm actually stood here with an Etrusco P40. This is an 8 foot size American table, and this tends to be the most popular size that we sell to UK home customers because it's easier to fit into a normal size room in an English home. A 9 foot table can be a little bit on the large side. We do also sell an awful lot of 7 foot size American tables, and that's because again they fit more easily into a UK home, but also in the States bars will use 7 foot size American tables, and you may well find that you've been playing American pool in the UK, say in a bowling alley, a lot of the time they will use 7 foot size tables there. A 7 foot size table is easier to play on, purely because the size of the balls and the same size of the pocket stays the same, but obviously it's a smaller size. It does make it easier to pot the balls on a 7 foot size table versus a 9 foot size table. Okay, so let's look at an English size table. This is a 7 foot size English table. This is actually one of our luxury models. It's a Montfort Lewis. It's a pool dining table. And the 7 foot size is often considered as the standard size, the normal size of an English pool table. And the reason for that is because that's the size that's used in tournaments. In tournaments, that's right the way from being local pool leagues that could be county level or could be held in your local city, all the way up to the World Championships. They always use a 7 foot size table. The only exception to that is some of the televised events in the World Championships, for example. They'll use an 8 foot table for the final, and that's because it's being filmed, and a larger table looks better when filmed on the TV cameras. In pubs, as I said, they'll generally have a 7 foot size table if it's being played on by local pool leagues. But if they're not, they'll have a 6 foot size table sometimes just to use less space. If they haven't got enough room for a 7 foot size table to allow free queuing all around it, they'll choose a 6 foot model. So home customers will often decide to choose a 7 foot size table because that's what they consider as being the standard size that's used in tournaments. But if you don't have enough space, don't squeeze a 7 foot table into your room. Go for a 6 foot table. You'll get a great game from that. As I said, a lot of pubs, people will be playing on a 6 foot table and not realise the difference in size between a 6 foot and a 7 foot. Watch our other video and that will give you guidance on how to measure your room and make sure that your table will fit in there and allow you enough space to be able to queue around it freely. Okay, so by now you're probably finding that there are actually a lot more differences between English and American pool than you thought, and we're going to move on to the cloth now, and again that's a very different type of product that's used on the two different types of tables. So first of all, let's talk about American. American cloth this is actually a Simonis cloth that's on this particular diamond table. This is 98% of tournament tables will use a Simonis cloth on there. And the difference really is that there's no nap to the cloth. So an English cloth will have a furry, fuzzy surface to it. An American cloth, you can literally see the weave. So there's no fuzziness to it, and that means that an American cloth will play faster. But one of the characteristics you'll find of an American cloth is that when the ball is struck, it goes from 0 to 60 at a very, very fast rate, and that will generate heat in the ball, in the cue ball that you're hitting, and that will cause a very small little burn mark. It's actually a burn mark on the surface of the cloth. It just goes a little bit lighter, and you can see from this close-up where the ball's been struck, where we cue off from on this particular table, you can see that the cloth is on a little bit lighter there, and you'll find that over time the entirety of your pool table surface will have these small little circular burn marks where the cue ball has been struck. On an English style table, English style woolen cloth, which has got this napped surface to it, first of all you'll find that as you go down the table from where you break, it's got a smooth surface. You can go down the grain of the cloth and you can feel that it's smooth, and you go against the grain, you can feel that it's got a rougher type of feel to it. And because it's got this fuzziness to the surface, it does play slower. The ball will move along it slower, the ball will come to a rest faster than it will do on an American style table. But because of this fuzziness to the surface, you won't find so often the characteristic ball burn marks that you'll get on an American table. It's far less prevalent on there. And the other thing to note about this is very similar. It's the same style cloth that you use on a snooker table. So if you played snooker, you'll find that English pool cloth will be the same. It's got that same woolen nap surface with that directional grain going down the table. So one thing to bear in mind is that on American tables, customers will always choose an American style cloth because that's the right type of cloth to go on that table. So just stick with American. If you're going to buy an American table, pick an American cloth. But for English pool tables, some customers will prefer actually to choose an American style cloth to go on there, and that's for one of two reasons. So firstly, it's because it plays faster. So if you're buying a brand new English table, because the cloth hasn't been played on before like it would have been in a pub table, it will actually be quite slow to start off with, and as you've been playing on it through the years, it will speed up as the cloth wears in. But a lot of customers will prefer to have a faster table straight away, so they may well choose to have an American style cloth on there. The second reason is because they prefer the colours that are available maybe in American cloth that aren't in English. On this particular table, this again is one of our Montfort Lewis luxury tables. This is an English table. You can tell by the cuts of the pockets there, they've got this curved shape to them. So it's an English table, but we've actually got an American Simonis cloth fitted to it in this purple colour. And that's because we really like this purple colour. It's quite lilac-y, whereas the equivalent English style cloth is actually quite a dark purple. You can sort of see the difference in the colours between the two. This lilac one I think looks really great with the black, whereas this one is a little bit dark. So you may well prefer to choose an American style cloth to go on your table just because the colours suit what you're looking for more closely. So next we'll have a look at the cues that you're going to use depending upon whether you're going for English or American pool. So first of all, let's have a look at the English cue that you'll use. So this is traditionally made out of ash, and it's got a 11mm thick tip, but maybe down as low as 8.5 or 9mm. That's what professional players use, a very thin tip on their cue. This is about 11mm in size, and that's obviously corresponding size to the size of the cue ball. On an American cue, they're generally made out of maple. You can see that it's a lighter wood with a less prominent grain, a thicker tip, 13mm thick on the tip, and again that's because of the size of the cue ball that you're striking. You'll also notice that on the English cue we use a brass ferrule. This piece of brass here is actually called a ferrule, whereas on the American cue they use a plastic ferrule, and it's a lot longer, and the reason for that is because of the weight of the ball. When you're striking it really hard, it does actually slightly cushion the blow against the ball and gives you more control over the ball as you strike it. So that's the difference between the two types of cues that you'll use when playing either type of game. Okay, so let's have a look at the game you're actually going to play on either your American table or your English table. So first of all, let's look at English. So you've probably seen this in the pubs where you're playing with a set of reds and yellows, and the object of the game is one player is reds, one player is yellows, pot all those coloured balls, and then you've got to try and pot the black 8 ball as the last one. Whoever does that wins the frame. You can do the same thing with American pool. So this is the same sort of rack. Again, it's 8 ball, but you're using spots and stripes balls. If you buy an English pool table and you prefer the look of spots and stripes, you can buy spots and stripes and still play 8 ball pool on there. But obviously on an American table, they don't come with reds and yellows. It's always going to be spots and stripes on there. The reason for that is you can play either 8 ball pool or 9 ball. Now 9 ball, you may well have seen on the TV, it's had loads of coverage over the last few years on Sky, particularly with the Mosconi Cup and with the World Cup of Pool, and they're always playing 9 ball. So 9 ball is played where both players are shooting for the same ball. So after you've broken, you're basically trying to run the balls through from 1, 2, 3 in numerical order up until whoever can pot the 9 ball at the end. So there is potential that one player could pot 1, 2, 3 all the way up to number 8, misses the 9 ball, and then his opponent, who's been sat there watching for the duration of the frame, stands up and he pots the 9 ball and he takes the frame. So it's quite a different game between playing 9 ball and 8 ball, and it's really worth trying to play both, see which game you prefer, and practice with your friends. There's also, in America, there's a number of tournaments played with other varieties of games, again using the same balls. So you've also got 10 ball, you've got straight pull, which is also known as 14.1, and you've got 1 pocket. So there's tournaments for all of those over in the States. If you've been to the USA, you may well have seen those. We won't cover off the rules for those in this video, but watch out for other videos and I'll take you through what the rules are for those so you can give those a try as well. Okay, so I've taken you through quite a lot of information on English pool tables versus American pool tables, but I wanted to try and bring you a bit of a summary at the end. So why would you buy an English pool table? Well, a lot of people have grown up playing on the pubs, on the tables in the pubs of Great Britain. So they're used to playing on a 6 or 7 foot table with 2-inch size balls, and that's just what they're used to. So having played on that, that's what they want to have in their own home. It is a tougher game, so if you're after something which is a little bit more taxing and you're going to need to really hone your skills to be proficient at it, then English pool can be a bit tougher than playing American pool. Next reason really is a lot of people want to be able to practice at home. So if they're going to be playing in local pool leagues or competitions, they want to be able to practice at home and get better at it. Therefore, if they're playing English pool out and about, they want to be able to play English pool at home. But a lot of people are just playing against their mates in the pub, and therefore they want to practice at home and get better and then take their A game into the pub to beat their mates. And the final reason could well be down to price. So English pool tables are generally cheaper than American pool tables. They start from just under £700. So it's a bit more affordable to get into English pool and still buy a really good standard of tables at £700 or so. You're buying a slate bed pool table that's of a competition grade, so you can get a really good game at home from an English pool table. Okay, so why would you choose an American pool table? Well, a lot of our customers have either played American pool in their local pool hall. That's where they go to play, that's what they're used to playing. But also people that have travelled a lot abroad or have been living abroad would have only really ever been playing American pool, because pretty much everywhere else globally is playing American pool, not the smaller 2-inch English style pool. So that's the game that they're used to. It is a faster game and it's easier to play. So if you've got family members that you want to get involved, younger players, because the balls are larger, the cues are more robust because they're bigger and got a thicker tip on there, it can be easier for younger players to play and a faster game and easier for them to master. Also, if they're playing in competitions, again, like we were saying for English pool, if what you're going to be playing at your local pool hall is going to be American pool, then get an American table at home. That's what you can practice on, and then you take your game back to play your mates, and that's what you're experienced at playing. The last thing really is because American pool tables do look cool. If people want to make a statement, they want to do a high-end games room, or it's a commercial location, so hotels, pool halls and that sort of thing, we get a lot of customers that just want an American table because it's larger, the balls are bigger, they look great, or they want to get one of the top brand tables. So top brands like Brunswick, you can see a Brunswick table here and here. then that as a brand, Brunswick only make American pool tables. It's an American brand. They've been around for over 150 years. People know the name Brunswick and that's what they want. Or Diamond, the table we've been doing a lot of the shots on earlier. They're always American tables. That's what's used in 98% of the televised pool competitions now are all Diamond, and Diamond tables only come in American pool. And bear in mind, obviously Diamond and Brunswick are exclusive to Home Leisure Direct. You can't buy those tables anywhere else. We are their exclusive company representing them in the UK. Hopefully that has been a help to you. There's actually quite a lot to take in. Maybe you didn't realise that there are so many differences between English and American pool tables. If you're still uncertain, I wouldn't blame you if you are uncertain and you want to come down and try out some of our tables here. We've got loads of American, loads of English pool tables. Come and have a game. If you're buying it for your family, bring them all down as well. Get everybody involved and see what suits you guys best. If it's a bit too far for you to travel or not convenient, then by all means go to your local pool hall. Most pool halls nowadays have got English and American tables in there. Rent one of each of the tables, have a game there, get a bit of a feeling. If you still need some more advice, then give us a call. We can talk you through everything which you need to know on the phone.